Hello everybody, Hunter V. Norris here, and today I'm going to be ranking all 13 of Christopher Nolan's films from my least favorite to my favorite. Starting with number 13, or maybe it's number 31, or maybe number 1? I don't know, I'm still kind of confused on how Tenet rules works, and that's kind of the reason why I didn't really care for this movie and why it's my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie. Yeah, it's definitely confusing, kind of hard to wrap your head around, which wouldn't be a problem if the story and the characters and everything else about the movie wasn't kind of so bland and lame and just not that interesting. Like Christopher Nolan's other movies, it's technically fantastic. It looks great, has a lot of cool action scenes, really neat visuals like the time inversion effect, but it just doesn't have the strong characters or story to really get me invested. At number 12, we have Insomnia, which is kind of a unique movie in Christopher Nolan's filmography because he actually didn't write this one. It's a remake of a 1997 Swedish film. While the movie is led by some fine performances from Al Pacino and Robin Williams, and it does have some great direction from Nolan that puts you in the psychological headspace of the characters, it's really kind of dragged down by the generic script where it just has a bunch of lame cop movie stuff that really kind of takes me out of the movie. And Hilary Swank's character, yeah, she does a fine job, but her character's not really that well written, and the story never really takes off for me, but overall, it was a decent thriller. At number 11, we have Following, which is Christopher Nolan's first feature film. Shot it on a shoestring budget, it's shot in black and white. It's really funny to go back and watch this movie after you've seen a lot of Christopher Nolan's work to see that he's always had a big thing for the whole non-linear narrative thing that he loves to do. It's not an amazing movie by any means, but it is interesting to watch as you can see where all the little seeds of Nolan's filmmaking tendencies were kind of being planted there. And it has a great twist ending that kind of ties everything together and recontextualizes stuff to make you want to watch the movie again, and it probably makes it more interesting. At number 10, we have The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I'm a huge Batman fan. You'll see The Dark Knight and Batman Begins later on in this list, but The Dark Knight Rises is certainly the weakest of the trilogy. That doesn't mean it's a bad movie, though. It's just kind of clunky with some pacing and structure issues and tries to do way too much within its runtime. But, you know, you got fantastic performances. Tom Hardy as Bane is still, in my opinion, the greatest comic book villain ever. Yes, even better than Heath Ledger's Joker. And while it's not a perfect movie with plenty of flaws, it's still a very entertaining blockbuster and a satisfying cap-off to Nolan's Batman trilogy. Alright, now we're at number 9, which is where Nolan's films really start getting great in my opinion. And in this spot, we have The Prestige with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. The Prestige is just such a great, twisty narrative that has fantastic performances from the two lead actors. You just love watching their rivalry and how they try to one-up each other, manipulate each other, screw each other over. It's all great. The ending, especially with how everything comes together, it really kind of blows your mind. Although I do feel at the very, very end, it tries to get a bit too twisty for its own good and kind of gets a little bit ridiculous. This is a movie about dueling magicians after all, so you just kind of have to suspend your disbelief and go with the flow. It's such a rich story that really has a respect for magicians and their craftsmanship and how it kind of ties into filmmaking, and so yeah, I can see how the story definitely appealed to Nolan. At number 8, we have the movie that officially put Nolan on the map, which was Memento. In typical Christopher Nolan fashion, it's another mind-bending, non-linear narrative movie that shows you the events backwards as you follow Guy Pearce's character who has memory loss, and you're sort of piecing the narrative together along with him. It's just such a great neo-noir with so much mystery and intrigue to it, and it really draws you in, and it really makes you just want to watch it over and over again so you can pick up on all the little nuances. At number 7, we have his latest film, The Odyssey, which is a wonderful adaptation of Homer's classical Greek poem. You can check out my recent review for my full thoughts on that, but The Odyssey is another Christopher Nolan epic endeavor that's just a wonder to behold, especially when it's an IMAX 70mm. It's an excellent movie, but not really his best, which is why it exists here kind of in the middle of the pack. At number 6, we have his World War II film, Dunkirk, which is one of the most unique war films out there. Of course, it's a war film in only the way that Christopher Nolan could make, with a non-linear narrative that cuts between 3 different perspectives, but that's just what makes the movie so fresh and also so intense. It's one of the most harrowing movie-going experiences that I remember seeing in the theater. And it was one of the first times that Nolan kind of challenged himself to do something different by making a movie that didn't rely on a bunch of expository dialogue. Alright, now we're in the top 5. At number 5, I have Inception. Inception is another classic Nolan mindbender, kind of like the quintessential Nolan movie. It certainly felt like it was the first blockbuster movie of his that was 100% his vision and his ideas, and it is quintessential Christopher Nolan. It's really twisty and complex on the surface, but it's really not a hard movie to grasp, and it also has really strong central characters like Leonardo DiCaprio and Marion Cotillard. It's very similar to Tenet in some respects, but Inception proves that you really need a strong central character, idea, and themes to really draw the audience in instead of just a bunch of complex time manipulation. At number 4, we have Batman Begins. Batman Begins basically revitalized the whole Batman brand after Batman and Robin ensured that it was dead and buried, and Christopher Nolan showed us that Batman could once again be taken seriously and have a good movie built around him. It's a great comic book movie, but it's also just a great film on its own. And at number 3, we have Interstellar. Now, I gotta admit, I wasn't a huge fan of Interstellar when I first saw it back in 2014, but then seeing the 10-year anniversary re-release in IMAX 70mm a couple years ago, man, that movie blew me away. Not only is it an absolute technical achievement with some of the most stunning, mind-blowing visuals I've ever seen in my life, but it has such a great, interesting story. It's a perfect execution of Nolan's non-linear time manipulation narrative that he loves to play with so much. And at number 2, we have Oppenheimer. While this isn't the top spot, I do kind of think that this is Nolan's magnum opus. I mean, it did win the Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director, but it really showed him stretching himself as a filmmaker. Since he had to do a 3-hour movie that was pretty much entirely dialogue-driven and wasn't an action movie, he really needed to make sure the audiences stayed engaged. And the dialogue and the performances in this, yeah, it's some of Nolan's best work and the actor's best work. Oppenheimer is so fantastic. It has a strong social, moral message to it, but it's also just a masterfully crafted, entertaining, and suspenseful drama. Also, I don't care what anybody else says, that Trinity test scene where you finally see the nuke go off, it's so good. And at number 1, my absolute favorite Christopher Nolan movie, and one of my favorite movies of all time, is The Dark Knight. I mean, come on, you kind of saw this coming after I said I was a huge Batman fan a few spots ago. Not only did it completely redefine Batman, the Joker, Two-Face, and so many other characters, it completely redefined the comic book genre and kind of blockbuster filmmaking as a whole. Over the past 18 years since its release, you can point to so many films and filmmakers that were influenced by Nolan's take on The Dark Knight. It really is that influential of a film, and that's because it is really just that fantastic. The best comic book movie ever, the best Batman movie ever, and just simply one of the best films of all time. So yeah, The Dark Knight is my number 1 Christopher Nolan movie. So that's my ranking of all 13 of Christopher Nolan's films. What do you think? What's your favorite Christopher Nolan movie? What's your least favorite? How would you rank them all? Do you think that I have a horrible opinion after seeing these rankings? You wouldn't be the first. But why don't you let me know in the comments anyways. I'll see you guys next time. I'm Hunter V. Norris.